Well, hello again. This is going to be part 2 of the chassis. Today we're going to be working on capacitors. We're going to change out this capacitor, an electrolytic, this electrolytic, and this electrolytic. I'm going to replace them with these three right here. And if I get time, and the video's not too long, I want to cement in these two terminal strips right here. This is where I cut the tip or the terminal off the Candohm resistor in the last video. This was the middle one, and the third one was way over here, and it goes to ground. Okay, so I'd like to get those cemented in, one here, one there. I'll be cementing these round tabs right here between these two places, and this is the tentative decision. I don't know, I may wind up changing it. Let me get this out of here. Come here, you. God. I tell you, it's a tight squeeze, but once I get rid of these large capacitors, we're going to have plenty of room. I may wind up moving these terminals over a little bit further. I don't know. Whenever you go to any kind of course, any kind of instruction, you look up any kind of book that shows you how, a signal affects a tube and everything, they always take the audio signal and they make it a nice smooth sine wave like this, and then they run it into the tube control grid, okay, or they run it through a coil or whatever. It's a nice smooth sine wave. They have to do it that way for instructional purposes, but let me show you what it really looks like when it starts out. There's a guy over here speaking into a microphone, and I'll make him look like Buzz 1151. Okay, here's a guy speaking into a microphone, and here comes the audio signal. Now, we're not talking about the carrier that carries the audio signal. We're talking about the audio signal itself. It's going through his little microphone here, and it comes out of there every time he talks, whether it be speech, music, a preacher on the radio, a newsman, doesn't matter what it is. When audio comes out of any transmitter, it's going to look like this. This is what it looks like while he's talking. It's just a jagged mess, okay? Well, they can't very well show you how a tube works with this kind of stuff. You'd go crazy. So what they do is they take a little section out of it like this, we'll say. And then they blow it up. So now what they've got is something that looks like that, okay? So then they say, well, that's still not good enough. We're going to have to spread it out a little more. So they spread it out a little more. And it looks like that. And then they say, well, let's smooth it around. Now, for instructional purposes, we'll just have to do it. We'll make it look like this, okay? So what started out is looking like this. Eventually, they had to do this in order to instruct. You just can't do it like this. Now, a capacitor this is what hits a capacitor. Here's a capacitor, we'll say, and every time it hits this plate, it causes a reaction inside the capacitor. I mean, they are electrons bouncing around inside that sucker like you wouldn't believe. I would not want to be inside that capacitor while all this stuff is going on, and it's a continuous, non-stop thing, and it is just so fast. I don't know how the electrons keep up. It's really an ingenious invention. It really is. Give me the definition of a capacitor. Almost everyone would say, well, it blocks DC and passes AC. You hear it everywhere, all the time. Well, guess what? That's half correct. It does block DC. The electrons pile up. This is your audio signal coming in. It blocks DC, piles them up right here. And it passes AC. That is false. It does not pass AC. It passes the effects of AC. What am I talking about by that? We'll try a nice new clean sheet for this, so I don't want you guys to get confused. Capacitor, leads in, leads out, lots of electrons in here. Millions and billions of electrons. Here comes your audio signal that I showed you earlier for instructional purposes. When in fact, remember this now. Everything I tell you is going to be operating at the speed of this. Okay? So when the negative comes over and hits this plate right here, what happens? Negatives repel. All of these negative electrons in here are going to go in that direction. Okay? And when they go in that direction, it makes this plate negative. Makes this plate more positive because there's fewer electrons over here. They're all rushing in that direction to get away from that negative right here. This is a negative. This is a positive. And when all the electrons build up on this plate over here, what do you get? Well, you get a negative. So this negative is the same as this negative. Now keep in mind it's moving down the line. Okay, all of this is moving down the line. It don't just sit there. Now the next half cycle comes around. This is the positive. I'll move it over here. We'll say it came over here like this. Hits the plate. Oh, these electrons love opposite polarity. But when they're the same polarity, they repel. When they're opposite, they attract. So they come back in this direction. Again, at this speed right here. I wouldn't want to be inside that capacitor. So all the electrons come rushing back to get to the positive. They love that. So what does that do? It makes this plate right here now becomes negative. Okay? Because all the electrons are built up here now, making this one positive because there's fewer electrons here. So that's how we get the positive. It's just a matter of moving the electrons back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, extremely fast, so fast you wouldn't believe it. So that's what's called passing the effects of the AC, not the AC itself. I mean, think about it. If we were to pass the AC itself, what would happen? The plates would short and the entire capacitor would just burn up. You can't pass AC voltage through a capacitor. It would go bang. I've seen electrolytics go off like firecrackers, okay? So that's what I mean by passing the effects of AC instead of the AC itself. So the old adage of what does a capacitor do? Well, it blocks DC and passes AC is only half correct. Yes, it blocks DC, but it passes the effects of AC instead of the AC itself. Hopefully that makes sense. Now, you guys want to argue with that, find someone else to argue with. I will never change my mind on this. That's the way a capacitor works. Okay, let's get back to the old chassis here. I've got these two short terminal strips, glued in. They're nice and solid. They're not going to go anywhere. I let them set overnight. I use JB Quick. And it looks like right now these two right here are fastened to the tab I told you about earlier. I think I can just kind of bend that thing down a little flatter and just solder it to the back or to the front of this existing tab right here, which would save me a lot of time, and I won't have to do I won't have to disturb the existing solder joints from the factory. It'd be kind of neat to do that. I think I can do that. Just if I have to bend this one back just a little bit to make nice flat contact, that's what I'll do. Now this one over here I can't do that with. There's a big solder blob that's got to go. We got to clean this up. This whole thing's got to be cleaned up. And this wire here will have to come down and be soldered to that tab. Right now they just tapped into it with these two, with this capacitor here and this one here, and then of course this resistor. So I've only got three things I have to connect to this right here, other than the the resistor. Now the resistor I'm going to use is this one right here. This is the 10 watt. Let me get that baby in there to show you what I'm talking about. We're going to go ahead and solder this 10K, not 10 watt. It's a 5 watt 10K. We'll solder that in like that. I don't think there's going to be too much heat. It's only going to maybe a watt and a half, maybe 2. So there's a lot of overkill on this. And if I find out it's too hot, and I actually have to have it, on top of the chassis to help absorb the heat, that's what I'll do. I'll remove these two screws right here and put it right down there on the chassis. We'll figure out something. It'll be easy to remove and easy to fix. I have others with longer leads. Now over here, I'm going to have to attach a 25K. Now this was 10K from here to here with all this crap soldered to the other end, and then a 25K will have to go in the same connection right here, run across the back and hook the ground side, the other side to ground right here. And as you can see, I can't just hook it up. That's another solder mess right there. I've got to clean this whole thing up. So I'm going to extract all this, clean it all up, extract all this, where we at? Extract all this and clean it all up, get this thing soldered. And the way we're going to do this other one over here is I'm going to, well, let me set it up and I'll show you here how we're going to do that 25K. Now since we have a lot of room over here to play with where we don't have over here, I can't really push these terminals back too far because they're going to be messing around with the tube pins. I don't want that to happen. And I can't bring it forward because the screws are there, so I did the best I could. And I didn't want to move it too far over because then I would have had to take the wires loose and, you know, put another one in there. Better to stay with what we have. But the 25K will be sitting on the chassis right here. Just going to let it sit there with the ground. You know, this end hooks the ground. The other one, I put a piece of heat shrink on it, and I bent the end of it, and we'll just stick it through the hole here and solder it in. But first we have to clean up all those solder joints. Let's see what I can do with that. I think I'll try, let me see, I think I'll try this one first. I may have to get my old Hacko out here to suck some of that solder off. There's a bunch of it. And there's a whole bunch right here. Too much, actually. Now, over here, I think we even have some. Yeah, we're going to have to do something with this one, too. What a mess. Alright, I've been working on this grounding point right here. And my iron, you know, is not quite hot enough to melt everything. But I don't want to take everything off because this was a factory. What they did, they went underneath. There's a tab right here. I don't know if you can make out that tab. They wrapped wires around that thing and then went underneath the tab and came up the other side for this one right here. And of course these two come down, so I didn't have an iron that was hot enough to, you know, dress it up and look good. But we're going to do another little trick and hopefully that'll do. But this is what I took off of that thing. I don't know what all this crap was that came off of it. And that's not counting the solder I sucked up with the solder extractor. But this is a wire. What's left of a wire of some kind, and this is also what's left of a wire. I don't know where those wires could have come from. Doesn't make sense. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this is going to help us out a little bit. I'm going to take a little flux out of my little flux container here. I'm going to lay it down in there, kind of smear it around a little bit. Then we're going to hit it with the soldering iron with a little bit of solder on it, and that should smooth it up and make it a little shiny, make it fairly good. I'm going to put quite a bit of flux on there. I'll have to do a lot of cleaning. I've already cleaned it with the alcohol and brush. And we'll just go ahead and see if we can't get plenty of flux down in there. We want a lot of flux action. Flux is an acid, and it enables solder to melt faster. Alright, I'll put a little more on there and then I'll heat it. I have cleaned the tip of my iron nice and clean. And now I'll go ahead and take some of this old solder here. Give me a pretty good glob of it on there. And now we'll stick it down in there and see what happens. Just kind of move the iron around. It's not going to melt a lot. It's only a 60-watt iron. Messing with the chassis. Alright, that's a little bit better. Nice and shiny now. And it's not all, you know, everywhere and everywhere, the best I could. If I had a hotter iron, I could have really melted it on down, but at the same time, you got to worry about this mica cap. You don't want this lead to get so hot it starts frying things on this end. You know, it's kind of a trade-off, but it does look a whole lot better now. But I'm not going to be soldering anything more to this. We're going to be using this tab, I believe, for the end of that resistor that comes over. Now, you can do it one of two ways. You can go ahead and slip it through that tab. The wire comes from this resistor that I'm going to be putting in here for the ground, or I can just wrap it around one of the ground leads right here. Just wrap it around and tack it on down with a good solder joint, and that's it. Just don't be blobbing tons and tons of solder on it. It won't make it any stronger, but I'm kind of glad that one turned out okay. All those old wires are gone. Incidentally, when I was pretty hot and heavy on the antique radio forum when I first started this stuff out, I was told that a solder joint like this, as opposed to a screw and nut, a washer, say through this hole here, this gives you a much better ground. You can't get a better ground than this. If you put a screw and a flat washer and a lock washer, star washer, and a nut, yeah, it'll be a good ground, but it won't be as good as this. So take it for what it's worth. Well, this video is getting kind of long, so I think what I'm going to do is just go ahead and finish up this replacement for the Candohm resistor. Next time we'll go ahead and change these, because I got a lot of solder joints to clean up and everything, and then we'll fire it up. So as you can see, I decided to go ahead and take the opposite side of the 25K resistor and just run it through that hole right there. I'll solder it in place and then nip off the excess. This is already in the hole right here. I'll go ahead and solder that in, and then I'll heat shrink this down with my heat gun. And then I'll solder this to here, and hopefully get this mess cleaned up and get the wires moved down to here somehow. And then get the 10K resistor in. Let's see what we can do with that. Now be sure before you solder any of this stuff that you clean it up real good with alcohol in your brush. You want a nice clean place to solder your leads to. This one's already been done over here. I got to clean up some flux there. A little bit of flux. Come on, get off of there. Oh, flux is like glue sometimes. There it goes. It's like glue sometimes. But that one's done. Alright, let's do this one. And now I'll have that tab in position, and I put some flux on there because I want a good connection between these two. I'm soldering it on the back because that'll give me one hole there and one hole there in case I need to use them for something. Who knows? Alright, last but not least, these two capacitor leads, the one from here and one from here, are going to be unsoldered from there. They're going to be swinging in the breeze out here. And then I'll solder this tab to here. I'm going to have to clean it up quite a bit. And this wire here will have to be unsoldered and move down to that tab also. And that will complete what we're doing. So let's get to it. Well, that's it for now. We have our Candohm replacement back in. Then we got our 10K soldered between these two, and over here to ground, which works out all right. I still have to heat shrink this down. I'll do that in a few minutes. The heat shrink tubing on that, I want to make sure that gets shrunk a little bit. And next time, now these two wires, I've got them tied together from these two capacitors. They will go to here. This wire here will also go to here. And then of course down here I'm going to have to clean up this solder joint and this solder joint when I put the new capacitors in. Okay, so this goes to here. These two will go to here. Clean up the solder joints. All three of these have to connect together and go there. So that's probably what I'll do. I'll replace the resistors, the capacitors, hook them all to one point, and then run a single wire down to here. That's the way they should have done that to begin with. I don't know why they didn't. So until next time, this is John.